Hey there, and welcome to another video episode of Power Purls podcast. I am hopping on here just a little bit earlier than usual. I'm usually here every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And before I jump in and introduce myself to you all, I just want to do a quick little sound check because I know that some of you have problems with the sound from the beginning. So let's just make sure that we can hear. Of course, if you can hear me, then you wouldn't know I'm even saying this. So if you can hear me, just give me a thumbs up or actually type in the comments, which would be better to just say, I can hear you. And then I will know that we are good to go. So in this episode, it's going to be an Ask Me Anything. And so I can already see that some of you guys have put some questions in the comments. So please do jump in and say, yes, I can hear. Okay, good. Kimberly can hear me perfectly. Awesome. Great. So I am Kara Gott-Warner, and I'm the host of Power Purls podcast, designer, illustrator, coach, editor, and your ultimate cheerleader on your yarn crafting path. You can catch me here every Friday on the Power Purls Facebook page for the live edition of Power Purls podcast. So, as I said just a moment ago, for those of you just flowing into the room, today is an Ask Me Anything episode of the podcast. And I will also share 3 strategies that you guys can use for one of the biggest struggles that I hear many people share with me. So I'm going to get into that in a little bit. So, and then there'll be that Q&A session. So I'll kind of switch back and forth and I'll engage with you guys as we'll get the questions going. And then I have a little challenge for all of you guys before we end this broadcast today. So as I said, so basically what I'm going to do when we start is I'm going to kick off by sharing one of the biggest struggles when it comes to goal setting. So, maybe starting a fiber-based business, trying to start designing, designing some patterns to put on a Ravelry shop, or maybe just implementing a morning routine and just a way to be more healthy. So that's kind of what I'm going to talk about in these strategies that we're going to dive into. So, but before we dive in, as you guys all know, you know the drill if you join me here every Friday, is that I would be so grateful if, number one, if you would first share this with your friends. So on your own personal profile, you can see this when you're, obviously you're on the video, there's a little button that says share. So if you could share this with your Facebook friends, because you never know who's a knitter. And, on top of that too, I think that some of these strategies that I'm going to talk about, especially today, are plug and play for whatever you're going through in your life, whatever kind of goals you're trying to create for yourself. So please take a moment and share, and then jump in those comments here and let me know where you're viewing from so I can get to know you guys if this is the first time that you're popping in. And I'm really glad that I see a bunch of you guys coming in here because this is an earlier time slot. And so you guys are dedicated. I know that some of you guys said you had to set the alarm being in a different time zone so that you could watch today. So I'm going to just scroll through here really quickly. So we have Jennifer in the room. We have Kim from Alabama. Jenny is here. Happy Friday, she says. Ava is here. Hello. Let's see. We have Linda. Let's see. So, Linda, I see your question about the dashboard. That's a kind of a separate little topic here. And, I'm not sure what's going on with that. Let's see. But I'll talk to you about that at a different time or off broadcast. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to dive in. So are you guys ready to kind of review what's happening in today's special broadcast? So let's dive in. And I want to share what I hear from many of you, what the biggest struggle is when it comes to goal setting. And that is, how do I even get started? And then if I get started, how do I stay on track? And really, it's like, how do I know I'm leaning my ladder up against the right wall? So does that sound familiar to you guys? If so, thumbs up, hearts, because you know what? It sounds like me. That's for sure. It is that dilemma that we all seem to have when we want to start something new is to how do we even begin? How do we begin the journey, right? To make this what it is that we want to do a reality. So if you think this sounds like you, I just want to figure out now, why does this happen? Why do we struggle with setting those goals? And the truth is it comes down to the fact that we don't have a real measurable goal. And what I mean by that is an outcome, right? So your idea of what you want might be just a little too vague. So if you were to write it down on paper and hand that to somebody and say, if someone didn't know the specifics, right? That's what's in your head. If you could give that piece of paper to them and that they could probably say, oh, okay, this is how I would go about doing this, then you're probably a little bit closer to being more specific, right? And I'll share in just a few moments how you actually can figure out if your goal is measurable, because it needs to be, it can't be so broad as to say, I would love to design knitting patterns. It's, yes, that's great, but there's got to be more to it to get to that goal. So you can begin to map it out. So let's move on. So, all right. So the thing is that when you come up with this idea, right? I really believe this, and maybe you think this is a little bit woo-woo, but once you figure out what your goal is, the universe definitely does conspire to make it happen. And maybe, you don't think it's the universe, but maybe it's you, right? You have solidified this idea. And so then you know where you're going. And once you see that out in the distance, then you can really plot your course and understand how to get there. Okay. So let's dive in now. I'm going to dive into these there's three strategies. There's three ways that you can achieve any goal. And so that's what we're going to talk about here. And this is something that I actually use myself. I use it all the time. It's also a big part of how I design my coaching program. So if any of you have already taken some of these free sessions that I have been, I've been scheduling with many of you guys. And so at the end, I'll share with you how you can find out more about actually taking advantage of one of these free sessions. But what I'm about to share with you is really the framework for how I actually conduct or start the process. So because many times I see that there's no real solid goal. And this can apply not just to one goal, but you can apply this to big goals, to smaller goals, like I said earlier, to life, business, whatever it is. And this is a great way to just work your way through one thing and then move on to the next and the next and the next. And this also really helps take away the overwhelm. Okay. And so if you follow this framework, you're actually going to see some success. And so these three things I actually shared, if any of you guys are in the Patreon community, which I see some of you are. So this is my paid community. If you guys are interested in checking that out, you can go to powerpurlspodcast.com/community. And I have several different reward levels over there if you want to be part of the fun. And I do these little mini-sodes. I call them mini-sode Mondays. And every Monday, I release an episode that's not available anywhere else other than to the patrons of the podcast. And so today, I'm going to talk a little bit, do a variation of that, of what I talked about this past Monday. And it's these three things to achieving any goal. So are you guys ready? Are you guys ready? I want to see some thumbs, some love, some thumbs and love. Come on, you guys. We can do this. All right. So let's see. So let's dive in. And before we dive in, because of course, after I start talking, people start coming into the room, even more people. So I'm going to stop real quick and just say hello to some of you guys. So I see Ada. is here in the room. Terry, hello. From Alabama. Troy. Hi, Troy. Nice to see you. Long time no see. Marie is here. Let's see. Jennifer is here. Hello, Jennifer. And actually, Jennifer, Jennifer and I just had a great session. So, Jennifer, I hope you found that useful. And I sent you an email with some goodies. So, I hope you got that. And Kim, we already said hello there, but I'm saying hello again. Kim, nice to see you. All right, you guys. So, I'm going to dive right in. So, with the first step that you guys can take to achieving your goal. Okay. And again, this applies to life. This applies to starting your own knitwear business, knitwear design business, starting to write a pattern. It can be teeny tiny to like even the biggest goals. And then every goal, you just figure out, here I am. I need to get to point, to Z. I'm here at A. And what do I need to do in between? Okay. So number one is you just have to decide what you want. Right? So it has to be specific and it has to have a timeline. So for example, here it is. Here's the measurable goal example. So by, let's say, January 2018, I wish to create my first design proposal to submit to Creative Knitting magazine. I just threw that out there. So this is a great example because this is very specific. And like I said earlier, if you were to write this down and give it to someone, they would say, oh yeah, that totally makes sense. And so if that was me and I were to plot this out, this might be how it would be. This is how it could be done. So this is, by the way, the biggest reason, as I said earlier, the biggest reason why people don't get started. And I hear that many of you guys will say, I just don't know how to stay on track. I can't seem to get started. And when I do, I fall off the wagon. And I believe, honestly and truly, that it is because there's really nothing out there in the distance that's keeping your eye on that, that carrot dangling, right? And so that's what you have to create. Okay. And you have to decide what you want. And it really has to be one thing. But I mean, in one goal, let's say you have one big goal. Okay. And then move on to the next and the next and the next, but one thing at a time. Because if you get caught up in that, kind of going down the rabbit hole syndrome, which I do all the time, it's exciting, it's fun, but then you know what happens? Everything gets watered down and nothing gets done. And I know that you guys know this for sure, right? So that's number one. And then number two is to eliminate the excuses, right? So these are the limiting beliefs that we tell ourselves. Okay. And we all have them. We all say, I'm not good enough because, I'm just starting out and I really don't have the knowledge and I don't have the tools and I don't have the resources and I don't have a website. You really can't let those things get in the way. And a lot of times too, it's even sillier things like that pop into our head. And here's a little exercise that if you guys were to actually write that down, right? Or write these down, these beliefs that pop into your head, instead of letting them stay in your head, if you were to actually either write them down or say them out loud, actually saying them out loud works better for me because these thoughts can be very spontaneous. And so when you're saying them, you're kind of going with that spontaneity and you're saying, this thing, whatever it is, and you realize that it might be a little bit absurd. Like, really? I can't believe I thought that. So when you verbalize it to yourself, and don't worry, if someone looks at you funny, hey, just go, I guess, sit in a room and start thinking about these things, and then you can start talking to yourself and nobody will care. But it's a good exercise to really kind of look at those excuses. And then what you can do from that point on, so say them to yourself, but also write them down and then go back through each one and really look at them and say, how do I get rid of this excuse? Like, why is this excuse why doesn't it hold water? And also a lot of the times when you say, I can't, it's really another way of saying, I won't. That's something to think about too. And that's not a bad thing, you guys. It's not a bad thing if you figure out that there's something you really don't want to do. It's all right. It's totally okay. Because then the good news is that you've discovered that, that wasn't the right thing for you. So eliminate those excuses is number 2. And then number 3 is to take action on one goal, any goal. That's my challenge for you guys today. Okay. And for this weekend and the week ahead, just take action on one goal. And so what you can do here is once you decide what you want and you've worked it out, you've written that down on paper, or maybe you did something like this, you created a mind map. So you've got your main goal here, right? If you guys can see it, is in the center, or maybe you can put something on the top. Now, you guys know I love mind maps. And so I have written down here, so you can basically, so you create the mind map with your main goal with all these different spokes off the wheel, so to speak, right? Because that is how you can kind of determine what else comes out of this main goal, because there's going to be lots of sub goals as well. And then, so you create this mind map and then create a linear list. And then you can narrow it down, delete and combine or condense. And then you can hone in on that one thing. So you can see that down here. So that one thing. And then that's how you can decide that one thing, this is your one thing, your main goal, right? And you can do that for every goal that you have. And this is the strategy that I use constantly. And I used this when I was deciding that I wanted to break free from creative knitting and start a new creative chapter. So my time with the magazine was great. I always like to preface that. It was a fabulous 7 years, but I was ready to move on creatively. And so in order to do that, I had to kind of put things down on paper. And this was one of the ways that I did it. And I worked through these three strategies, and I worked them, and I did not, basically it didn't cut corners, right? So you really have to sit and kind of plan it out and take action on each area. And so taking that action, so that's my challenge for you to create a mind map if you'd like, create that linear, then create a linear list if you want, if that's easier, or also after you've created the mind map, condense and refine, and then find your one thing. Okay, you guys. So now let's switch gears and let's see. So I see some people already popping in. We're going to go into the Q&A segment of the podcast, and I'm going to ask you guys a question, and then I'm going to pop over here into the comment box. But I'm going to ask you, what is holding you back from greatness? Is it maybe fear of the unknown? Fear of success? I mean, that's something for a lot of us. We may think, no, I'm not afraid of success. But with success comes responsibility, doesn't it? So is it fear of success? Fear of failure? Of course, that's a biggie. Or you lack a clear idea. Is that something else that's holding you back from your greatness? So you guys jump in, and actually I'm going to pop this up on the screen. Okay. I'm going to put that here in the, let's see, I'm going to write this on screen so you guys can see this question that I'm posing to all of you guys. So again, it's what's holding you back from your greatness? Is it fear of the unknown, success, failure? Or do you lack a clear idea? And is that the thing that's holding you back? So, all right, you guys. So jump in the comments and let's start a conversation. And then on top of that, as I said earlier, this is a Ask Me Anything episode as well. So this segment is my question to you, if you want to jump in and answer it, or dive in here and ask me questions about your knitting, about designing, about whatever you want. And I think I might pop back over to you, Linda, since this isn't Ask Me Anything. So I will go ahead and do that instead of doing it offline, because I thought, well, you know what? This isn't Ask Me Anything. So here's the opportunity. So I don't want you to feel like I have to get back to you later, Linda. It's kind of silly of me to say. So anyway, Kim says, I have always been a mind map gal. Super cool, Kim. So do you do the kind of the Sharpie version like this? You do it in a notebook? Do you use something called a Mind Meister? you guys heard of MindMeister? It's an online app, desktop app. I think there's probably one for your phone, but it'll be easier to use it on your desktop. And you can actually do presentations with it. So if you wanted to put your presentation skills to work for whatever reason, you can actually do it with this MindMeister. So I would love to hear how you use mind maps, Kim. So jump in there. So let's see. So Troy says, for me, I get excited about starting a project and begin a project, but then start to get bored. What can I do to keep my interest? So what can I say about that, Troy? And I completely understand, because I go through the same thing. And you know what I do when it comes to, especially when it comes to my knitting projects? I get excited about something, and then if I get bored, I always have something waiting in the wings. I know that many of us kind of feel guilt, that work in progress guilt, but I think you just have to get rid of that and always have a project that's sort of like your mindless knitting project and then your more challenging project, so you can toggle back and forth between those, if that helps. And I hope it does, Troy. Let's see. So let's go back to Kim answered my question about the mind maps. So Kim says, I keep a journal and a planner that I use to write down all the things, and I can visually see my thoughts. So basically, Kim, so in your journal, you create those kind of mind map bubbles and shapes in your journal, is how I'm guessing you do it. So that's great. I mean, we all do it a little bit differently. So that's really great to hear. Let's see. Let's see. Kim had another. I'm going to pop that up here. In a nutshell, as far as design is questioning if my thoughts are really my own. Good question about that. We are influenced by so much by what we see. I want to design pieces that are me and not similar to someone else's in copyright. Well, here's the thing. So, Kim, everything's been done. I'll just come out and say that. If you're going to design something that is coming from your own mind and your experience, it's okay to pull out a dictionary from time to time. I mean, I should say more than time to time, because most designers are utilizing stitch patterns that are found in stitch dictionaries, and they are translating them into their pattern, or adapting them, I should say, to a pattern for a garment, for a shawl, for a cowl. Maybe you adapt a pattern to making something in the round. And I know that this is a question that a lot of new designers have, and it's a question that I had when I was first starting out, Kim. But the truth of the matter is that you don't have to be worried about using a stitch pattern that maybe is in a dictionary. A lot of times, and I mean, that's kind of one of the biggest issues I hear. And so as long as you're coming up with your original design and your original idea, that's not a problem. So I hope that helps. And there was one other thing I was going to say about that, Kim. So let me put a pin in that, because I actually have to think about that one again, because I kind of forgot what my train of thought was there. So sorry about that. Let's see. So I want to go back to Linda. So this is regarding a workshop that we're doing. So if any of you guys were part of the Stitchucation 5-week workshop that happened in May, some of you signed up to become $10 members. And so at that level, I offered a bonus to get a special dashboard, so that all of the videos, so there were 5 videos, big videos, pretty big. Then they were all broken up into these smaller bite-sized chunks and then placed in a class dashboard. And then you can access each lesson. So for example, lesson 1, I think, has maybe 7 or 8 little tiny videos that have a description about what's in that little video. And this will also be available in the whole video, the whole class, or parts of the class will be available in smaller bits in my online school, which is now being fleshed out. But my patrons get to experience the class early. So it's not really a public school yet, but public school, that's funny. The school is not public yet. That's a better way to phrase it. So Linda has a question about the dashboard. So So Linda says, I can't access the dashboard. Did you send us an email with the link and maybe I just missed it? So Linda, I see that you signed up, that you enrolled in the course. I'm pretty sure you did because I saw that come through because I get notifications about that. So if you're enrolled and you go back and sign up, go back to where you enrolled, in the school, go to that original link, and then you will be able to you'll see on your dashboard probably right there is going to be the class because it's the only one that you signed up for. Or I'm not sure what the dashboard might look like on your side. I'd have to check that out, like on the student side, because I'm looking at the admin side for me. But you should be able to get in there and access. You'll see all of the videos arranged kind of in a linear format. So I hope. Yeah, let me know if you still have some help getting in. You need some help to get in there, and I will do my best. Okay? So Kim has another question. So thanks for all these awesome questions, Kim. How do you conquer the fear of knowing if your piece is unique? How do you conquer the fear? That is, interesting question. Well, wow, I'm like at a loss for words. And I guess I'm throwing a question back to you. Why you would have fear that it's not unique if you created this design yourself? And I'm wondering if it has to do with knowing if it's okay to borrow stitch patterns and that sort of thing. Is that what you were kind of going to, was this a segue to the other question that you had? I'm wondering. So that's a little question back at you there, Kim. Let's see. So I'm just taking a look here to see if you guys have any other questions, because like I said, this is now our Q&A segment. Let's see. Awesome. So Ava has some comments here, and Ava is actually a designer, knitwear designer. Has been designing for years, and so Ava might have some advice to share here. So Ava, do you have any thoughts on what Kim was talking about in regards to fear of feeling unique or knowing whether your design is unique? That would be awesome. Question back to you, Ava. But Ava says, I get distracted with other responsibilities unless I have a deadline. Yes. And you know what? I think that's kind of comes down to the discipline aspect, doesn't it? And to really just say, hey, I'm going to be tunnel vision. I'm going to be ninja focused on certain things, and that's it. And so what I usually do I have a day planner, but I also work from a daily agenda that has a timeline. This is like my own personal trick for staying on track, because when I can see that something is more it's inside of a timeline, then I can realize or look at it and say, wow, you know what? If I don't stay on track for this task and this task and this task, before I know it, my day is over. When we work from a task list, sometimes it's really hard to conceptualize time, if that makes sense. So if you have the kind of day planner that has a full page of time slots, or you can find those types of things online, but or make your own. Make your own with a Sharpie and a nice piece of copy paper with times, and then make a master copy and run it on your copy machine, or make a bunch of copies at the local copier place, whatever. But you guys get the idea. Hope that helped a little bit. So Ava says, I have something like a mind map in the past. Just need to get back into using it on a regular basis. Yeah, I think that mind maps are great tools for working out a new project or a new challenge, a new idea, because we're all really very visual people. You know what I mean? And when I can see something laid out that way, it just makes it all the more clear in my mind. So, yeah. So getting back to you, Kimberly, since we are highlighting your questions here, these are some good questions. So Kim says, do submitted patterns need to be tech edited before submitting to a magazine? Okay, so I'm going to answer this in a few different parts. The answer to that is yes, because even though a magazine will tech edit, it is still your name. It's your calling card. And before you send a design to a magazine, it is expected and it really is assumed that you have tech edited this pattern because you have to stand behind your product. So the answer to that is absolutely 100% yes. And then you ask, do we need to send swatches? Yes, absolutely need to send swatches. And they need to be swatches that are not just, garter or stockinette, that's a given, but or a stitch pattern. If you have a stitch pattern, yes, but in just kind of moving on even from there, going a little bit further, is to send the editor. Let's say you have a special shaping section in your design. Maybe you have some raglan shaping if you're going to work on if you're going to present a pullover design. You want to show some fully fashioned types of elements, so that gets into garment design, which is a little bit more advanced. So if you're starting out and you are designing something much simpler, then providing a stitch pattern and talking about maybe what some of the special elements might be, if you're going to be combining your stitch patterns with other patterns, these are things that you can do and should do. And also you need a swatch. In addition to the swatch, you also need a sketch. So Kim, I created an 8-step guide, which is available it's a free guide for everyone. So I have made that available, and I can always put that in the notes here at the end of this video, so you can go grab it. But basically, it's an 8-step guide for how you can work with magazines, yarn companies, or just in general, put together a really killer proposal. And it also tells you exactly what you need to do, in regards to the components of what you need to cover when it comes to putting together a design. Let's see. So I guess it's the steps to the door that hold a lot of us back. Yes. So basically, to recap that, yes, you definitely need to make sure that your pattern is, so let me back up. So starting from the beginning, you submit your design, right? So you submit your design and you send a proposal that has a swatch. You have the skill level, your needles, your yarn. You want to tell a story. You always want to tell a story and paint the picture for the editor and always fit into a theme if there is one. Okay. And then if your design is accepted, then yes, you will be expected to follow a guideline that is usually there's a template. So with Creative Knitting, you would get a pattern writing template that follows their style. And then you would definitely need to work with a tech editor on your end before submitting. Before submitting your final design. So great questions. Great questions. All right. I'm just kind of scrolling through here, you guys. Let's see, Ava. So Ava says, I always try to keep any sketches, notes, swatches, drafts, etc. when I start a pattern. That way I can be more sure that I'm not copying something. So Kim, that was a great answer, because you know what? We are going to learn from other people, and sometimes we're influenced from other designs and designers that we've seen, that we've encountered out there. So keeping notes is a good idea. And like I said, so much has been done, but how you put your spin on the design at the end of the day is definitely what makes it unique. So don't fret. Don't worry about that. Let's see. So Julie has a question. Do you make and respect your own deadlines for a project? I have a hard time and sometimes tell a friend to help with accountability. Great question that you pose here, Julie. I do respect my own deadlines as much as I can, but it is hard when you're working for yourself like I am now. When I worked with creative knitting, the deadlines were definitely, it was a lot different because I had to meet those deadlines because other people needed me to be on time, right? Because working with a team, you don't want to let anybody down, and then the workflow suffers. But I try to do the same because I really try to remember what the consequences are to not completing a particular goal. So just to make sure that I'm on track, I always kind of daily have this, like, what is my non-negotiable task, so that I know if this, before this day ends, this has to happen. This has to happen because here are the consequences if it doesn't. And so I also like what you said too, because you said you have a hard time and sometimes tell a friend to help with accountability. Julie, it's a great idea to have accountability partners, especially if you are trying to start something on your own and set your own self-imposed deadlines. And I actually have multiple accountability partners. Some of them there's one that I meet with every week, and then there are others that I meet with once a month. And I'm actually trying to start thinking of starting a little mastermind with others, people that are editors and in the publishing space. And it's really good to start a mastermind with others that are kind of laterally with you and at your skill level. And so that's why I'm kind of talking to others that are out, that have been in the publishing world, that are veterans out there, and trying to, form a group to help us each other so we can all stay accountable in our endeavors. So great question, Julie. Thanks so much for sharing that. And Julie says it helps to have some friends, knitters and non-designers, yes, for sure, who read books, blogs, etc. They would spot obvious design influence. I'm thinking about the controversy about the vegan fox and the Lily Chin version. I don't know about that one. Boy, I must be behind the times. But yes, it is really good to have knitters and non-designers, or in general, just to really look at what we're doing, because sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees. You guys have heard that, right? So it's always good to have someone that's like, kind of like this non-biased critic, like that's not really part of the equation. That someone, they're going to be really, really honest with you, So, some good points here. And so Julie says, the only thing about tech editing before sending the pattern to a magazine is the cost. It costs $40 to $50 for the tech editing, and the magazine is only paying $200. It can be a problem. I always check the numbers myself. Well, Ava, that's part of the story. I mean, it depends. When you say 200, that's not really, that's not representative of what a magazine would pay for everything. So it depends on the design. So most magazines competitively will pay anywhere between $500 and $600 for a garment design, complete pattern, your sample plus your written pattern. And for accessories, like let's say for a hat, maybe a hat with like a scarf might cost you in the 200-ish range, and smaller accessories go down from there. So that price is variable. And so for the tech editor, so 40 to 50, it depends. Like, so I would say tech editors are about 30 to 40 out per hour on the hourly rate. The more, there are tech editors, this more sought after, busier tech editors, the veterans, maybe they would charge more on the 50 per hour range, but generally it's 30 to 40 an hour. And so you really do need to work that into the numbers. So if you're going to work with a magazine, this is part of your own cost of doing business. So if you don't work with a tech editor, that's your choice. But it is expected that your design is 100% accurate. Of course, nothing is 100%. There will be occasionally errors and problems and so forth, but you want to make sure that your pattern is as accurate as you can possibly make it. So thanks for adding that in there, your advice there, Ava. So Julie says, you are not behind the times. That was over a decade ago. Wow. That's funny. Yeah. The vegan, you have me curious now. The vegan, you mentioned a vegan fox. but anyway, this happens. I've seen other designs from people like, Lily Chin. I've seen others where there is a design, and because they're very well known, they created a design that was very similar to another design, and people were up in arms. Working with a publisher, being with Creative Knitting, I saw that happen myself a couple of times with some of the other magazines. I saw some issues with the crochet magazines where people were saying that's my design, and it's all copyright thing. But that's right there is a whole other episode, you guys, seriously, because if when it comes to copywriting, you can copyright your pattern. So if you write something, you write your pattern, it's automatically protected under the copyright law. But then when it comes to trademarking, some people believe that they can trademark or even copyright. You can't really copyright a design, like the actual physical design. So that's where the confusion can come in. But like to trademark a design, let's say, or put a patent on a design, you really can't do that. It's very, very hard unless you come up with a really new, innovative technique that's absolutely never, ever, ever been, no one's ever come up with it, and it's really conceptual and unique and different, and starts a whole new way of, whole new process, a whole new way of thinking. So, these were great questions, you guys. So thank you so much for, jumping in there and asking me questions, because now I feel like I need a serious drink of water. If that's okay, I'm going to do that. And then we're going to start to wrap things up. And if you have any other questions, here's your chance to jump in while I'm taking a sip. And it's been awesome doing this in the morning, because I have all this energy. Do you guys like this time frame? Because I see some new faces. I mean, maybe this is better than 3 o'clock. I used to do it at 2. I used to do it at 12 p.m. Then I went to 3. But this is kind of a cool time slot. But anyway, if you like it, you can vote and say yay or nay. Okay, so I'm going to start to wrap things up, you guys. So this has been awesome. Thank you for joining me, and I just want to share a little thing with you guys, because this is really special, because I am opening up the doors for a new coaching program. Okay, so I'm looking for, as I'm calling them, beta testers right now, you guys. So if you're serious about starting a fiber business and you want to set up a free session, but not only just the fiber business and designing, but if you want to knit together all of those areas in your life, the knitting, the kind of finding a morning routine, let's say, the life work balance thing, because my background is I've been consulting people for years in the aspect of holistic living, wellness, nutrition. That's what I did in my past life. I was a nutritionist, so that might be a little known fact. But what I'm doing now is I'm opening up the doors to helping you all start this business. And so this is going to give me an idea. It's going to help me to help you. So I'm offering a free session, a free strategy session, 60 minutes for free. Seriously, no lie. So if you guys go to powerpurlspodcast.com/free strategy session. You can get all the details there. You can see what my thinking process is, what the program would cost, if you were to kind of move forward and do maybe a paid program in the future. But really, this is really to help me collect a lot of data about you, and then we'll see where it goes, right? We'll see where it goes. And also, if you're loving this, you guys, you love these videos, and you love the podcast, and you're always following along, help me to keep the ship moving, you guys. Head on over to Patreon, because there's a community there. And I offer rewards and really cool goodies over there, so you can show your love, become part of the community at whatever level works for you financially. You can start at $1, and you can go up to $5, $10. There's a $25 level, and you get some sweet rewards at these different reward levels. So you can check that out too by going to powerpurlspodcast.com/community. So I'd love to see you guys over there, and that's it. This is great. So if you have any more questions for me, please pop them into the comments. I will be on here today. Thanks for joining me on this Friday, and I'll see you guys next time. All right. Have a great weekend and take care.